Welcome to Pests of Public Health Importance and the Role of Integrated Pest Management in Schools. This is Dr. Marcia Anderson with the Center of Expertise for School IPM. I have the pleasure of being your moderator for today's program. Today's webinar will identify some of the pests commonly found in schools and the effects of their presence on the health and well-being of students and staff. Cockroaches, mice, rats, fleas, ticks, and some other pests found in school facilities and on school grounds can be hazardous to the health of both students and staff. Some pests spread pathogens that are harmful to people, and others are common sources of allergens and trigger asthma attacks. As our presenters will illustrate, reducing the unnecessary exposure of students to environmental hazards improves their health and attendance and leads to greater academic achievement and enables them to experience a more productive and a higher quality of life. The EPA recommends that all schools implement programs that promote the safe use of pesticides and integrated pest management. At this time, I'd like to introduce our presenters. Dr. Richard Pollack is the Senior Environmental Public Health Officer at Harvard University. Dr. Pearl English, she's a certified school nurse in the Philadelphia School District. And I'm Dr. Marcia Anderson. I'm an environmental protection specialist for the EPA's Center of Expertise for School IPM in Dallas. At this point, I'm going to yield to Dr. English from the Philadelphia School District, who will begin our program.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anderson, and welcome and thanks a lot for all the audience who are participating today. My name is Pearl English, and this is a picture of my school. It's a very old school. It was built in 1925, so it's almost 100 years old. And these are some of the more common pests that I have seen and I will talk about today. Head lice are insects that live on human heads only and can be spread through head-to-head contact. They are very common among children with curly to straight hair. Symptoms of lice include intense itching of the head in areas where the lice feed. Visualization of lice or eggs may also be seen in the hair. So we need to monitor in the classroom for lice. Head lice infestation are most common in preschool and elementary school-age children. If a teacher see or suspect lice in the head of a student, the student will be sent to the nurse's office. If head lice is found, I will educate the teacher and the parents on how lice can be spread and available treatment options. There are many non-prescription treatments that are very effective. Having lice could be very stressful for the student and for the family. So we try to be very considerate when dealing with this problem. Head lice in some communities have developed resistance to common over-the-counter treatment, resulting in the need of a more individualized approach for the child and the family. Some doctors now recommend 2 sets of treatment, one treatment on day 1 and another on day 7, mostly because it takes the eggs 7 to 10 days to hatch. Hopefully the second treatment will have catch all the newly hatched lice. Parents are then encouraged to use a fine-tooth comb for mechanical removal of all eggs. Previously, schools will use a no-knit policy, which required a child to be free of nits before he or she can return to school. This policy lacked evidence of being effective and resulted in unnecessary absenteeism. This policy is no longer being used. No exclusion is necessary. However, all siblings should be checked. Children should be encouraged not to share hats, combs, brushes, hair holders, other personal item until the infestation has been treated adequately. Ticks. So I have seen ticks as big as the one in the picture. I have removed ticks from children's scalp. I remember one distinctly which was found on a student by the student himself. He had no idea what it was. He thought he had a bump on his head. And you can use a fine-tip tweezer, place it very close to the scalp to remove the tick. If the student has any sibling, you can check the siblings. Unfortunately, with this student, I did find ticks on his younger brother. I later learned that they had acquired dogs. Ticks prefer warm body areas, so when checking for ticks, check under the arms, in and around the ears, inside the belly button, behind the knees, between the legs, around the waist, and especially in the hair. Always recommend a doctor's visit after removing a tick from a child's body or if a tick bite is suspected. If a tick bite is suspected, monitor for rash, the onset of fever or flu-like symptoms. Many tick-borne diseases have similar signs and symptoms. Lyme disease is one of the most common diseases caused by tick bites. With Lyme disease, a tick bite can be seen as a circular rash which may expand, giving it a bullseye appearance. Educate parents on the signs and symptoms and recommend a doctor's visit. In Philadelphia, all confirmed and suspected cases of Lyme disease must be reported to the Department of Health. No exclusion from school is recommended. Fleas. Most flea bites can be seen in and around the ankle or in the lower parts of the child's body. Flea bites on humans can also be seen on the arms after holding a pet. The reason why they attack the lower area is because they live closer to the floor, like in carpets, close to the floor. Flea bites can be very itchy and painful. They can be seen most often in group or clusters on the lower leg. I remember having a student who came to the health room with red itchy spots on his lower legs. I was not sure. It's very difficult to tell, so I advised the parents to take him to the doctor. He later came back and said it was flea bites because they had acquired dogs and cats also. So it is possible to develop an allergic reaction after being bitten, or the student may have a secondary infection after scratching the area. Infections occur when the students scratch in and around the affected areas. The treatment: encourage the student to refrain from scratching. Keep the area clean by washing with soap and water. Sometimes I use ice or a cold pack to soothe itching. Antihistamine and calamine lotion may also help with itching. But advise the parents to contact their doctor. If there are pets in the household, also advise parents to monitor the pets for fleas. Bed bugs is a very current bug. They are small, flat, brownish, wingless insects that feed on human bloods. It could be very difficult to distinguish bedbug bites from other insect bites. While most people connect bedbug infestation with clean, unhealthy environment, the presence of bedbug has nothing to do with cleanliness or socioeconomic status. Bedbugs typically hide in places like mattresses and box springs. They are active mainly at night and usually bite people while they are sleeping. Although bedbugs are not known to transmit diseases, there are health issues associated with infestation. The skin can become irritated and itchy from bites and can also lead to excessive scratching and itching, which increases the chance of a secondary infection. They can also cause moderate to severe allergic reaction, which require medical attention. Some people have no reaction to bed bugs bites, but while others experience an allergic reaction that can include severe itching, blisters, or hives. Quite recently, I had a teacher at my school who said she had seen a bed bug on a student's coat in the courtroom. If the bed bug is found on a student, Discreetly take the student to the nurse's office or in a private area and check the clothing and belongings for any possible bed bugs that may be present. If it is seen on the student's jacket in the cloakroom, like at my school, all the jackets and coats in that room has to be checked to see if there are any more bugs present, especially if the coats are all cloaked together and touching. If the bug is positively identified, call the child parent and let them know what was found. Also provide the parent with information on where to look for the bug in the home and information on seeking help for bed bug control. It is very important to collect the bug for proper identification. Keep it intact. Place it in a sealed plastic bag like a sandwich bag, or if someone is afraid to touch it, you could get a piece of tape and just stick it on the tape. The tape would hold it in place and it won't get lost. So if the bed bugs are found in the classroom, the first thing to do is positively identify it. If it is positively identified, a trained pest management personnel must be called in to inspect the classroom. Pay attention to rugs, stuffed animal, upholstered furniture, and bedding for small children. At my school, we have pre-K. We have two pre-K classrooms, and they have a lot of bedding in those classrooms. So if that happens, you have to go through all the bedding. Notify the principal and the building engineer. If there's an infestation in the classroom, follow the IPM plan and the treatment. Notify and educate staff and parents of the finding and treatment. So mosquitoes. Mosquitoes carry diseases from one person to another. Usually, students complain of mosquito bites all the time. Every red dot on their skin, they would think it's a mosquito bite. It can be very difficult to distinguish what type of insect bite it is because they all give you red spots that are itchy. So if a student complains of a red itchy bump on their leg or in their arms, wash the area with warm soapy water and keep the area clean. Most mosquito-borne diseases occur in summer to early fall when mosquitoes are very active. Ask the student about travel. Have they traveled to tropical countries where mosquitoes are more prominent? You can also advise parents on over-the-counter antihistamine or topical anti-itch medication to control pain and itching. Apply ice pack to the skin to provide relief from itching. Ensure the student's fingernails are short and discourage scratching to prevent secondary infection. There are several diseases that can be transmitted to humans by mosquitoes. Most recently, there was a lot of news on the Zika virus. So if the student has flu-like symptoms, such as fever, chills, sweat, headache, cough, nausea or vomiting, diarrhea, please advise the parent to contact their primary care doctor and educate the parent on mosquito-borne diseases and monitor for serious reaction, secondary infections, and allergic reaction. No exclusion is necessary. So cockroaches is one of the pests that contributes a lot to childhood asthma, and asthma prevalence is very high in Philadelphia. At my school, approximately 1/3 of my students has an asthma diagnosis. And recent data confirm that cockroach allergen is the primary contributor to childhood asthma in inner city schools and other environments. Cockroach and their droppings can trigger an asthma attack, and therefore it is very important to keep cockroaches out. The school must educate all the staff and parents, and that includes teachers, custodial staff, noontime aides, food service workers, so that they can help to reduce cockroaches and their drippings in school. It is very important to educate all. And so what we do is we allow our students to eat only in the cafeteria and the dining area. We encourage teachers and staff to put non-refrigerated items in plastic containers or sealable bags. Dispose of trash on a daily basis. Other measures include reporting and repairing leaky faucets, frequent vacuuming of carpeted areas, reducing clutter in the classroom, damp mopping of hard floors, regular cleaning of countertops and other service areas where cockroaches are primarily attracted to water sources and food debris, especially in the pantry and the cafeteria areas. We encourage a lot of surveillance. If roaches are found, we will call an exterminator. So rugs, stuffed animals in the classroom. Most lower grade classrooms, such as pre-K and kindergarten, use rugs as a large part of their floor spaces. Teachers are required, or we ask them to keep in mind that rugs are a warm place for bugs and other pests to live and flourish. So we encourage them to clean and vacuum frequently. Stuffed animals can also be washed frequently in hot water and dried in a heated dryer. Thank you very much. This is the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much, Dr. English, for your informative presentation. To go more into depth, we'll now call on Dr. Richard Pollack, the Senior Environmental Public Health Officer at Harvard University. Dr. Pollack, the mic is all yours.
Thank you. Good day, and thank you for the invitation to present this webinar on pests of public health importance in schools. I'm Richard Pollack, and I have nearly 4 decades of experience around the globe studying, teaching, and dealing with diverse pests. Currently, I teach, craft policies, and oversee pest-related issues on the Harvard campuses, where we have an array of hundreds of buildings and facilities with offices, classrooms, laboratories, residences, food service establishments, child care centers, and all the maintenance challenges and resources to support the mission of the institution. I also operate Identify Us, an independent consulting firm which offers insights and guidance to the rest of the world. I'll now present a broad overview of pests of public health importance that affect schools and the school communities. We don't have sufficient time to cover each potential pest in any great detail. Instead, I'll illustrate different ecological or behavioral categories, then present specifics on a few key pests in each group. I'll cover facets of the biology, epidemiology, medical, and public health significance of these pests, and also offer insights on risk reduction and pest management. I hope this discussion will be of value to school officials, medical personnel, teachers, and parents. Some pests affect people directly, yet others pose risks by affecting the building and grounds. Some pests may bite or sting, whereas others may infest persons, cause irritation, or incite allergic responses by exposing people to hairs, saliva, and exudates. Pests may also damage and foul the infrastructure of the building. Several kinds of pests will contaminate food and food service items. Any kind of real or imagined pest can instill fear. The presence or even the mere suggestion of a pest may stimulate unjustified and costly interventions and harm the reputation of the school and the school community. Parents and school personnel tend to grossly exaggerate the significance of fairly trivial creatures, yet ignore those that pose real threats to health. For instance, head lice are unjustifiably feared and vilified across North America and many other places around the globe. Ticks and mosquitoes, however, pose much greater burdens and carry infections that are sometimes deadly. Folklore and fear trump reality, and this places great risk on our school communities. Because head lice cause such disproportionate concern, I'll spend a few extra minutes on those creatures to help you better understand the facts and to dispel folklore. A rational integrated pest management program can reduce risks. Develop or adopt an IPM program that aims to keep pests out of the school. When pests are present, the IPM plan should help stop those pests from spreading and suppress their population. A good program will monitor for pests and damage and specify appropriate actions for response. Follow this link to learn more about IPM plans. Students and school staff members may occasionally present with what appear to be insect bites. Invariably, a guessing game ensues, with parents, school personnel, and even school nurses and physicians participating in an effort to identify the villains and basing their conclusions merely upon the appearance of the skin lesions. Many will state with authority that those are bedbug bites, and others will assert these to result from spider bites. Such proclamations, however, tend to be wild speculations. Sometimes the guesses are right, but more often they're considerably wide of the mark. In many cases, the lesions result instead from skin infections, injuries, or other kinds of irritations. Without observing the creature in the act of biting, it is rarely possible to identify the culprit merely by examining the appearance of the lesion. Follow this link to learn how better to assess the cause. Let's now consider some of the behavioral strategies used by different kinds of pests. First, there are those that display what I'll term the eat and run feeding routine. These are the blood-feeding pests that visit for just a minute or so to bite and suck blood, then retreat to a safe distance. Mosquitoes are obvious examples of these kinds of pests. Other examples include black flies, no-see-ums, deer flies, as well as bedbugs and fleas. At best, mosquitoes may cause just minor annoyance. When and where they're plentiful, however, they can pose a real quality-of-life burden. Some mosquitoes carry pathogens that pose risk of illness and death to wildlife and human beings. In North America, the best-known agents of disease include West Nile virus, and those viruses that cause dengue, Zika, chikungunya, and eastern equine encephalomyelitis. Although the vast majority of mosquitoes don't carry such infections, it only takes one infected mosquito to transmit the pathogen that may result in disease or death. Because a person can't tell the difference between a virus-laden mosquito and one that simply will annoy, it is wise to consider that any mosquito may pose some risk. Mosquitoes require stagnant, fresh, or brackish water for their development. Some mosquitoes exploit standing water along pond edges, puddles, and wetland environments. Yet others are adapted to small volumes of water that collect in disused tire casings, trash bins, leaf-clogged gutters, buckets, and even in bottles and cans. Some may even develop indoors in water within dishes beneath potted plants, in floor drains, and in sumps and sanitary waste ejector pits. Wander around most schools and you're likely to find some mosquito habitats. Eliminate as many of the man-made mosquito habitats as you can. For others, contact your regional mosquito control district or health department for guidance and help. Operable windows should ideally be fitted with window screens, and doors should be maintained closed to keep mosquitoes outside. EPA-registered personal use insect repellents can dramatically reduce the frequency of mosquito bites. Follow the link on this slide to learn how best to reduce mosquito-associated risks. Other eat-and-run kinds of pests include the bedbugs and their close cousins. The most common villain is the cosmopolitan bedbug. The closely related tropical bedbug is now becoming an occasional pest here. Bedbugs are well adapted to living in our homes, but sometimes they'll infest our workplaces, including schools. Somewhat more distantly related bugs that may occasionally enter our dwellings include the bat bugs and swallow bugs. These latter kinds may cause consternation because of their presence, but they tend not to feed upon people. Because the means of treatment to the dwelling depend upon the kind of bug present, it is important to know precisely the identity of the bug. So capture one or more and have it examined carefully by an expert before jumping into action. Bedbugs tend to be night active. During the day, they hide in dark or protected sites. Hence, they're far more likely to seek a blood meal while people are asleep at home than from students or others in the school during daylight hours. But sometimes bedbugs do infest a school and, if hungry, will wander about at midday. These insects don't burrow into the skin, but use their straw-like mouthparts to deftly suck blood from the skin. The bugs feed for just a few minutes, and the bite itself is painless. A person who has become allergic to the bug's saliva may react minutes, hours, or even many days later. Bedbugs can survive for weeks or even months between blood meals. Bedbugs are wingless, so how might they arrive in new homes, offices, and schools? If one or more hides in a book bag, purse, briefcase, luggage, furniture, clothing, or other item, they'll then be transported to new sites. So it shouldn't be surprising that some bedbugs arrive at school within the possessions of students, teachers, or other personnel. Once they're discovered in a school, you'd be wise to contract services from a licensed pest management professional, ideally one that fully understands the critical details of school IPM issues and who has a good track record in eliminating bedbugs. Manage information about the bedbugs with care so that you don't cause a greater problem by inciting hysteria and rumor. If asked about the problem, be truthful, direct, and make it clear that you have a plan of action and are following best management practices. Follow this helpful link to the EPA resources on bedbugs and their management. In contrast to the quickly feeding mosquitoes, bedbugs, and fleas, some other pests stay on or in us for considerably greater intervals to feed slowly or to develop. Hard ticks, such as the deer tick or black-legged ticks, and the dog tick may be attached and feeding for 3 to 9 days, depending on the stage of development. Larvae of certain botflies develop slowly in the skin for weeks or even many months. So I'll term this the contemplate and savor strategy. The kinds of ticks that may be encountered on or around school campuses depends upon your region of the country and habitat. Some kinds of ticks are more prevalent in grasslands, others in brushy or forested areas. Here are images of adult females of 3 kinds of ticks that are widespread across much of North America. During the week or more while these ticks are attached and engorging on blood, their bodies swell considerably. Each kind of tick may carry its own complement of disease-causing microbes. The agent of Lyme disease, for instance, is carried by deer ticks, but not by lone star or dog ticks. Similarly, dog ticks, but not the other kinds, sometimes are infected by the agent of Rocky Mountain spotted fever. If you find a tick on a person, it should be removed promptly. Save the tick so it can be identified and assessed for disease risk. Just affix it with clear tape to a sheet of paper or file card and note the relevant information as to the source and date of removal. This information may be of great help to a clinician. To make matters more complicated, different stages of a tick may be found on a person. Here we see a tiny larva, a nymph, and an adult male and female of a deer tick, each in its non-fed or flat state. The agent of Lyme disease is transmitted by the nymph and adult stages of deer ticks. Note the extent to which the nymph swells during its 3 to 5 days of attachment. The top right image shows that the tick's body remains on the outside of the skin. Only the tick's mouthparts, the harpoon-like structure in the bottom left image, actually enters the skin and holds the tick in place. Some persons who become infected by the bite of these ticks will present days or weeks later with a diffuse rash that spreads about 1/4 of an inch per day. But not everyone who becomes infected will manifest with such signs. One may reduce risk of infection by avoiding tick-infested sites, wearing clothing to block tick contact, and by using EPA-registered tick repellents in accordance with the instructions on the product label. Even with these steps, a tick may still make it past the gauntlet. Therefore, it is important to search carefully for ticks each night and remove them promptly. Realize that larval and nymphal ticks are really tiny and can be very difficult to see. Don't limit your searches to obvious and exposed areas. Ticks often settle in for a meal in hidden sites, such as on the scalp. There are many specialized devices marketed to remove ticks. A fine-tip forceps, similar to what you might have readily available to remove a splinter, is nearly ideal for ticks as well. For more helpful insight on reducing risks from ticks, visit this EPA resource. Generally, an infected tick must feed for a defined interval, usually about 2 days or more, before it can transmit the pathogens. Occasionally, the saliva of certain feeding ticks may produce an ascending paralysis. Weakness and loss of control usually begins in the legs, then progresses toward the head. This is a life-threatening situation and requires immediate action. If you find and remove a tick early, you can dramatically reduce the risk of infection, resulting disease, and paralysis. So don't delay. If you see a tick, remove it promptly. Simply grasp the tick with fine forceps, a special tick removal tool, or even your fingers, and just pull it straight out. Then save that tick so it can be identified and assessed. A clinician should then discuss risks and options for testing and treatment. We've considered some pests that feed quickly in just minutes and others that take their time. Now, let's focus on those that must remain on a person full-time for their survival. I'll call these diners in residence. These include head lice and their infrequently found relatives, the pubic or crab lice. Other full-time residents include scabies mites that burrow into the upper layer of the skin. Generally, lice and scabies mites perish within hours once removed from a person. Hence, efforts to combat them should be focused mainly on the person, not the environment. The notion of head lice running rampant in the school corridors too often results in panic, consternation, and rage amongst parents and school personnel. But is any of this worry justified? I suggest not. Such panic derives from misinformation and folklore. Myths about head lice are far more varied and prevalent than are the lice themselves. For instance, many people still wrongly believe that head lice are a sign that a person or his or her home is unclean. Head lice occur on persons who bathe every day and on those who do so much less often. Other common myths are that head lice can jump or fly, or that they can survive for days or weeks on floors, desks, beds, classrooms, or in cars or buses. This is simply not true. Yet more myths are that head lice are readily shared on combs and hats, burrow into the skin or transmit infections, are able to survive all treatments, and are a public health problem that should cause children to be sent home from school. None of these notions is true. Head lice are insects. Their 6 legs each bear a strong claw well adapted for grasping scalp hair. Head lice are blood-feeding, external parasites of people. They neither feed nor survive on any other animal. They are far more prevalent on children in the kindergarten through 4th grade levels than on those in any other age groups. Head lice feed solely on blood. They do not and cannot burrow into the skin. The adult female louse affixes her eggs, often called nits, one at a time onto the scalp hair, and almost invariably within just a few millimeters of the scalp. These eggs develop in about 9 days, and a tiny hatchling may then emerge from each egg. The young head louse will feed several times each day and grow to become an adult louse about 9 days later. Only then can it mate and begin another round of egg laying. Moved from a person, head lice quickly starve and desiccate, that is, they dry out. Most will die within hours, and all certainly by the next day. To learn more about head lice, their significance in management, please view my recent EPA webinar on head lice. Follow the link on this slide. If the female louse had mated, the eggs she glues to the hair will develop during the next 9 days or so, and a single nymph will emerge from each egg. The developmental rate of the egg and of the emerged nymph is fairly constant because the temperature of the scalp varies little regardless of where a person lives or the season of the year. If a female had not mated, she will still deposit eggs, but those eggs will never develop or produce another louse. Any egg older than 12 days likely has not been fertilized, contains a dead embryo, or has already hatched. Such old eggs are merely relics. Because of the stability of the cement, dead and hatched louse eggs may remain on the hair for weeks, months, or even years. Hair grows from the base outwards, and these relics are then carried away from the scalp with the growing hair. Louse eggs discovered a centimeter or more from the scalp have almost certainly been attached for a month or more, and these are not indicative of an active infestation. Living, that is crawling lice, or louse eggs within a few millimeters of the scalp, satisfy the case definition. Vigorous combing, however, may loosen the glue from the hair and displace a viable egg to a position further away from the scalp. An expert can use a microscope to judge whether an egg is developing, has hatched, or has died. Those eggs that have hatched or died can never produce another louse. They are merely tiny ornaments on the hair. More often than not, dandruff, knotted hair, and other objects are mistaken for louse eggs. A diverse menagerie of insects and ticks may be discovered on the scalp hair, and these are often mistakenly assumed to be head lice, whereas creatures such as book lice, springtails, and aphids may frequently wander upon a person. They neither bite nor infest. Other times, fleas and ticks are found, and these can be far more irritating and pose considerably greater risk than do head lice. Any creature discovered should be sampled and examined with a hand lens or microscope and compared with images such as those I provide on my website. Proper identification and diagnosis can help ensure one selects the most appropriate treatment. Should you desire confirmation as to the identity of the creature or viability of an egg, I encourage you to contact me. Head lice are most likely transferred when an infested person's scalp hair is in direct and prolonged contact with that of another, such as when children might share a bed or simply play or read together. Parents might acquire or contribute head lice when they hug their children. That's a small price to pay for a wholesome behavior. If one family member is infested, then all others in the home should be checked. The only treatment necessary should be directed to the hair, and then only if living or crawling head lice are present. Should living head lice be discovered, there are three main strategies to eliminate them from a person. The lice and their eggs can be mechanically removed by use of special combs and other implements and by the careful use of controlled heating and drying devices. Louse infestations can also be treated with FDA-registered lotions and shampoos. Finally, one can remove the scalp hair entirely. Head lice cannot remain on a hairless scalp, but shaving the head as a treatment or preventative measure is almost never justified, and it tends to cause far more problems than it solves. What should be pursued by school health personnel? Sample the offending creature or object and ensure that it is properly identified. If the creature is a head louse, then return the child to the classroom and notify the child's caregiver at the end of the day. Provide objective and educational information to help guide the caregivers. No one else needs to know about a child's health issues, so respect and protect the confidentiality of the child and caregivers. Head lice are obligate human parasites. They're not free-living, hence they should be considered medical pests, not pests of the school, home, or other locations. School and pest management personnel really can do nothing to prevent or eliminate head lice. They should ensure that no one other than a trained medical professional examines a child for head lice or any other parasite. Let's now consider those creatures that don't feed upon us, but might cause injury simply by defending themselves. Bees, wasps, ants, spiders, and other creatures might sting or bite if disturbed. The result is usually trivial, but it can be life-threatening if a person is particularly sensitized to the venom, or if there are so many stings that it causes a severe toxicosis. But arthropods can cause injury in other ways. Some caterpillars are adorned with a layer of fuzzy hairs that may easily break off and lodge in the skin, cornea, or airways. To add further insult to injury, some of the hairs are hollow and filled with a venomous cocktail. So be wary of petting little hairy caterpillars. Some kinds of beetles are protected with chemical defenses as well. Crushing or disturbing such a beetle could liberate substances that may raise blisters or cause chemical burns. Most insects are perfectly safe to touch, but it can be helpful to know friend from foe before reaching out. Some of the creatures that bite mean us no harm. They just don't know any better. There are diverse kinds of mites that live on dogs, cats, birds, and other animals, and those found amongst hay, cheese, flour, leaves, and other items. Should some of these mites wander onto a person, they may probe the skin and be as surprised and horrified as is the person being sampled. During the warmer months, tiny plant-feeding insects called thrips cause similar distress. These insects are found in flower heads and on fruit and plants from which they suck plant juices. When they land on a person, they may probe the skin. This may be painful, but the thrips are not actually feeding on blood. They'll soon leave to dine elsewhere, whereas one is most likely to encounter such tiny creatures while outdoors. These may walk through or even fly through window openings, even the tiny holes in intact screens. They may also be drawn inside via the ventilation system. Now, let's consider creatures that are almost universally reviled because a few kinds of them find our homes to their liking and thrive on our foods and wastes. Cockroaches instill disgust simply by their mere presence, but they frequently foul our stored foods, rendering these unpalatable, reducing their nutritional content, and contaminating the items with their bodies' wastes and microbes. Some persons become highly sensitized to cockroach allergens, and exposure to areas where cockroaches occur rate the severity of asthma symptoms. Overzealous interventions targeted against cockroaches or any other kind of pest can pose yet even greater hazards and risks. Cockroaches in our dwellings will thrive if provided with food, moisture, and hiding places. An abundance of cockroaches should stimulate a search for the cause rather than merely pursuing a plan to kill as many as possible. American cockroaches often pour out of sanitary waste lines that are in disrepair or are not maintained well. Drains beneath sinks, showers, and floors should be protected with plumbing traps. These are prescribed almost everywhere by building codes to halt the flow of potentially hazardous sewer gases, but they also block passage of cockroaches. They only function if they're kept hydrated. Similarly, a cracked pipe or defect with a wax ring under a toilet will serve as a thoroughfare for cockroaches. So chat with your maintenance personnel to check on the condition of the waste pipes. Locating and fixing the sources can help stem the tide and is critical to meeting IPM goals. In contrast, German cockroaches don't flow from the waste lines and are often widespread through buildings. Securing food and improving sanitation is a key first step. Then professional pest control personnel will have greater successes with baits to suppress the population currently on site. I mentioned that the mere sighting of a pest can stimulate worry and panic. One not need an actual pest to cause such a result. Some persons may wrongly believe they've seen, been bitten by, or are infested by real or imagined pests. Sadly, this is more common than you might believe. Before pesticides are applied, it is always wise to find and objectively confirm the identity of any pest. Similarly, if a person believes there's something crawling within his or her skin, a medical evaluation should always take precedence over treatment. Exercise caution. Do not treat the school or any other site simply as a routine strategy to prevent a problem or to address an unspecified pest on the premises. I've presented a diverse array of pests and their significance to schools. I'll now summarize a few of the take-home messages. Rodents and insects are common outdoors. Some flourish indoors. Odors of food and trash are highly attractive. Indoors, rodents can chew through some walls and damage wires and pipes. Pests can foul and contaminate foods and food preparation surfaces. Pests can upset, bite, and pose a risk of allergy or infection, and pests can cause health code violations. Rodents and insects can pose health risks simply by leaving their calling cards behind. Cockroach and rodent excreta, body parts, and hair can be highly allergenic. A person exposed to such materials by touch or via inhaled dusts containing these allergens may suffer mild to potentially severe reactions. IPM efforts to exclude, contain, and suppress pests can, therefore, reduce secondary health burdens associated with pests. Cleaning the environment in a manner that limits dusts and aerosols is an important consideration. For more insights on allergy and asthma relating to pests in schools, visit this resource. You and the IPM program you follow are critical to attain a few basic goals, these being keeping pests out, stopping them from spreading, eliminating them, and monitoring pests and reporting sightings and damage. An open door or window is an invitation for pests to enter, so don't make it so welcoming. Keep these portals blocked, but realize that if light passes beneath or between doors, so can some pests. A mouse can easily pass through a space as thin as a pencil. Repair doors and windows, add special rodent-resistant sweeps, and seal penetrations in walls, floors, and seals in walls. Protect food from pests. A cardboard box or plastic bag is fine for shipping and storing some foods, but realize that these won't stop those pests that can gnaw right through such insignificant barriers. Should you find any foods fouled by pests, just discard those items. Protect food and food service items by using hard-sided bins with lids for secondary containment. Food crumbs and wrappers naturally fall to the floor or are carried there by pests. Rodents and insects are attracted to such food and also follow trails they lay down as they wander about. So it is important to remove food and grease residues, as well as the markers laid down by the pests themselves. Cleaning efforts should extend to the furthest reaches behind and beneath counters, furniture, and equipment. Remember, the pests are small and readily hide and wander through dark and dirty areas. Cleaning is critical to reaching IPM goals. Food that collects in drains must be removed daily, or it will attract and nourish pests. Many drains have a strainer or basket that can be easily lifted out and emptied into the trash. If drains are clogged or are liberating flies, call a professional plumber to clear the blockage and clean the plumbing traps. Caustic drain cleaners can damage pipes and pose real hazards to people. Food wastes attract diverse pests. These include flies, wasps, cockroaches, rodents, raccoons, and even bears. Secure all food wastes in closed bags whenever possible, then contain these within closed, pest-resistant bins or dumpsters. Maintain clean the bins and dumpsters, as well as the areas around them. Most people enjoy watching and feeding wildlife, but beware of the downsides of this action. Often the food provided is not necessarily ideal for the health of the animals, and it teaches animals, including pests, to depend upon such handouts. Animals accustomed to being fed may try to enter your building or may cause injuries. Pigeons, sparrows, swifts, and even hawks exploit ledges and other sites where they may nest and roost. They're fun to watch, but the birds can cause trouble. Sometimes they can be aggressive and risk causing injuries. Bird droppings foul building facades and grounds, and accumulations of this material can pose risk of respiratory infections such as histoplasmosis. Birds sometimes support thriving populations of blood-feeding bugs and mites that inhabit the nests. When the birds die, fledge, or otherwise leave their nesting or roosting sites, the insects and mites left behind increasingly become hungry and wander about in search of food. Some, or many, may enter a building and try to feed upon less suitable hosts, such as human beings. So be wary about attracting and keeping birds on your buildings. Clean with care. Rodent excreta, that is, their droppings and urine, are highly attractive to other rodents. They may also contain pathogenic agents. Hence, areas fouled with such accumulations should be cleaned and sanitized. But Take care not to create dusts or aerosols of this material, as those will elevate risks of infection and disease. So don't reach for the broom or vacuum. First, follow this link to read the guidance offered by the CDC on cleaning up after rodents. School personnel, parents, or others who need more insight might find help from my online resources at Identify Us. We offer answers to frequently asked questions, provide flowcharts for guidance, and present images for comparison. Images of presumed lice or other pests can be securely uploaded, or the specimens can be sent to us for rapid, independent, confidential, and expert evaluation. For more information on the topics I've reviewed, start with the resources you'll find at these links. Thank you for your attention.
And thank you, Dr. Pollack. I'm now going to cover the important health case for IPM called Preventing Pests for Healthier Schools. As we've learned from our previous speakers, cockroaches, mice, fleas, ticks, and other pests found in school facilities and on school grounds can be hazardous to the health of students, faculty, and staff. Some pests spread harmful pathogens, and others are common sources of allergens and trigger asthmatic attacks. Approximately 80% of asthma in children is allergenic or caused by allergens. Cockroaches and rodents are two of the most common pests found in schools and the most common asthma triggers. Allergens found in indoor dust that have been linked to asthma include those derived from cockroach feces, rodent excrement, and pet dander. According to the National Cooperative Asthma Study, 37% of children with asthma in the United States are allergic to cockroach allergens. And that even greater exposure to cockroach allergens is also associated with hospitalizations of children with asthma. And did you know that asthma accounts for more school absenteeism than any other chronic disease? So why is this important? Well, when students miss school days, not only does their academic performance suffer, but their schools stand to lose state funding as well. These correlations and others are presented in the health case for IPM. Now let's talk about rodents. They can carry bacteria and spread illnesses as they travel from outdoor areas to classrooms, kitchens, and other school facilities and move easily between walls. They can also carry other disease vectors such as lice and ticks. Mice can easily slip through a quarter-inch gap. They create 40 to 100 fecal pellets a day and can deposit 3,000 urine microdroplets per day. They're also extremely prolific, producing 40 to 60 young per year. And rodents are not only a disease hazard, but a fire hazard as well, as you can see in this photo of a mouse chewing on electrical wires. A Boston study found that mouse allergens were detectable on the desks of all of their sampled urban preschools and 95% of their sampled urban elementary schools. Children allergic to mice who were exposed to high levels of mouse allergens were also more likely to have unscheduled doctor visits, emergency department visits, and hospitalizations. The American Academy of Pediatrics and other groups have joined EPA in recommending the use of IPM in schools. Why? Well, IPM will reduce asthma incidence and absenteeism in your school by reducing both pests and their residues. IPM supports healthy school environments by reducing the unnecessary exposure of students, teachers, and staff to pests and pesticides. One unique thing that separates IPM from all other types of pest management is that it is proactive pest control. It prevents pest problems before they begin. IPM creates healthy school environments by controlling pest populations by removing their basic survival elements, food, water, and harborage. IPM creates healthier environments for students, faculty, and staff, and food preparation areas are cleaner and bacteria are reduced. In school environments with cockroach problems, even a simple IPM program can be implemented successfully with no negative trade-offs and using significantly less pesticides. IPM not only improves the health of students, faculty, and staff, but it can also lower costs and keep schools running efficiently. The method of pest control has been shown to reduce pest complaints in schools by 70 to 90% with no long-term increase in costs. IPM was found to be more effective in pest reduction than conventional pest management practices, which are mostly reactive and usually include scheduled pesticide applications. By effectively reducing the number of pests in a building, IPM can improve student health by eliminating the unnecessary use of and decrease the reliance on pesticides. However, IPM does allow for the application of pesticides, but only when needed and in the specific problem areas. An IPM program also educates staff about how to maintain a healthy space and encourages healthy habits such as strategic cleaning and maintenance. The cleaning and maintenance necessary for IPM's overall success also improves the building's indoor air quality. Focus on health. There are a number of reasons why IPM is a smart choice for schools. Focusing on the health case can encourage schools and school districts to commit to an IPM program. Student, teacher, and staff health is a unifying issue that everyone can agree on and makes this a central message when considering moving to an IPM program. IPM is a cost-effective approach to pest management that can provide many benefits to the school system. Along with protecting student and staff health, it has the potential to increase attendance and help keep school buildings in better condition. IPM offers schools the opportunity to go beyond conventional pest control and implement a more effective pest management strategy, ultimately decreasing the presence of pests and eliminating the unnecessary use of pesticide in schools. And lastly, a few more common sense IPM takeaway tips to keep pests from entering your school or other buildings. In addition to improving sanitation and maintenance, take vegetation away from the wall. Trim down to expose the ground. Ground covers provide great harborage, especially for rodents. They love the cover of vegetation. Trim branches from overhanging trees. Rodents and other critters climb up or fly onto roofs to find harborage. Avoid placing a light directly on the building. It draws insects to the building. Instead, put the light on a pole to draw insects away from the building. Do not prop doors open. Insects and rodents walk right in as warm air escapes. They're attracted to the heat, and they're looking for a warm winter harborage. Inspect. Look out for pest-conducive conditions and evidence of pests, such as signs of water or droppings. Then, perform the maintenance to resolve the issues. Place traps right up against the wall where the floor meets the wall. Some pests, especially rodents, look for covered travel corridors. Next, install door sweeps. If your school has huge door gaps, mice will walk right in. Door sweeps, properly installed and maintained, can reduce pest complaints by up to 65%. Use light traps where appropriate, such as in kitchens or on loading docks, inside the building, wherever deliveries occur. Don't let pests become pets. If you feed it and give it water and harborage, it's a pet. A wise professor once said, pest management is people management. Thank you again to our great presenters, Dr. Richard Pollack from Harvard University and Dr. Pearl English from the Philadelphia School District.